So welcome to Trent University's virtual fall preview. We're excited to welcome you to the social sciences session. My name is Zachary. I'm an enrollment advisor here at Trent, and I'll be the moderator for the session. With me today, we have Dr. Amy Spendick, who is a faculty in our Policing and Community Wellbeing program, Dr. Byron Liu, who is a faculty in our economics department, as well as the chair of School of Business. We have Dr. Chris Byers, faculty in the International Development Studies program, as well as a student here. We have Heidi, who is in our International Development Studies and Political Sciences joint program here. So we are definitely excited for the path we have ahead of you and look forward to sharing all the reasons why Trent has been ranked the #1 undergraduate university in Ontario for 10 consecutive years. Think of today as the beginning of a conversation about you and Trent, and we look forward to continuing that conversation with you throughout the day as you meet faculty, staff, and current students. During the session, you can ask questions in the chat, and at the end of the session, we'll have a short question and answer time with the members of our panel. I invite you to add your questions in the chat box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. We're also going to be doing a draw for 3 Trent hoodies today. So by attending today, you'll be entered to win one of 3 Trent hoodies. And in the live chat, we also have members from housing, admissions, and graduate studies eager to answer any and all of your questions today. But with that, we'll hop right into this. So the way this session is set up is an interview style. Typical questions we get about social sciences here at Trent. So the first question we have here is for Dr. Byron Liu. Which programs at Trent are considered social sciences? And what happens if I want to change my program after I start in it?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Byron Liu. I'm Director of School of Business and Chair of the Department of Economics. So excellent question. You're all here to explore social sciences. Quick definition, social sciences are generally those fields of study that apply the scientific method to humans, to people. What does that mean, scientific method? You got to come here to find out. So quickly, the departments and programs that offer social sciences are, and it's a long list, so please pay attention: anthropology and archaeology, business administration, child and youth studies, that's in Durham, communications, coming soon to Durham, economics, indigenous studies, international development studies, international political economy, logistics and supply chain management, also coming to Durham, policing and community well-being, that is in Durham, political studies, social work, and sociology. And the second part, what if you want to change your program? Answer, no problem. In your first year, easy. Second year, mostly easy. And as you move through the years, not quite so easy, but you can still do it. Each program will have a set of required courses that vary by program. In your first year, we invite you to explore a variety of programs. You may choose a sociology course and an economics course, decide you don't like economics, switch to sociology, no problem. By your second year, you simply want to make sure that you pick up any necessary prerequisites. So it's not a big deal, but you should be aware that when you make the change, you may have to pick up an extra course or two. And the answer to find out more is to consult with each program.
Awesome, thank you for that. The next question here I have for Dr. Amy Spendick. What is the benefit of studying in the social sciences at Trent?
Well, I mean, as a sociologist, I can safely say that nothing is more interesting than understanding how people do what people do. And so social science allows us to really get to why people engage in the way that they engage. Why does our social system organize the way it is? And how do inequalities get mapped into our greater social world? And so the benefit of social science at Trent is that you have a wide diversity of courses you can take to get all sorts of aspects of that human experience. My program looks more at policing and health related things, whereas sociology has a wide variety of other things that you can take a look at. And so, you know, if you're interested in why people do the way things that they do, how those things map onto the way that we live and where we live, and why is it important to understand that where we live impacts our health and our education and our life outcomes, then the social sciences is the place for you.
Perfect, thank you. The next question here for Dr. Chris Byers. how long does it take to complete a social sciences degree? And are all degrees the same?
Okay, hi everybody. So typically it takes 3 to 4 years, depending on whether you want to do an honors degree or just get a BA, plain BA. And that takes 3 years. And an honors degree takes 4 years. So the way that your degree would be shaped at Trent is that the first year, you sort of get a chance to look around. You don't really need to declare your degree until later. And so use the first year to try out different courses and see what you might be interested in. And then in the second year, you really commit to a particular degree program. And in international development studies in which I teach, most people end up doing a BA honors. So they do the full 4 years. Now, that's if you're doing it at 5 courses per year, all the way through. For some people, they choose to take a little bit longer. So they may take 5 years, which could be a good idea if you want to sort of, have a bit more time to read and really get into the courses. So that's also a possibility. So yes, happy to answer any questions after this. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question here is for Dr. Amy Spendick again. If students start in one program, are all of their courses within that discipline?
Typically, no. So in your first year, there will be required courses for whatever program you choose. And then you have a wide variety of degree requirements that you need to take that allows you to take all sorts of different courses. So that could be courses in Indigenous studies, it could be in political science, it could be in sociology, it could be, well, if you're into math, it could be into math if you want to take that as an elective. That was never one of my electives, but you never know. If you're into it, go for it. And so what we encourage you to do is whatever program you initially come into, you make sure you take that, whatever the first year requirements are for that program, and then broaden your horizons. One of the beautiful things about post-secondary institutions is that they give you so much choice. The challenge of being at a post-secondary institution is we give you so much choice. And so take the time, explore the different options. You will be shocked at what you'll learn and what kind of courses are available to you. And then as you get into your upper years, you can more streamline and specialize your courses into those areas that you're really interested in. Of course, making sure that you meet the program requirements, and every program is different.
Thank you. I just want to make a quick note about the Q&A, so the chat box there. I see a lot of questions coming in that are very program specific. This session is going to stay a little bit more general in the social sciences, but we do have our open house coming up on November 20th, where every single academic department will have a session. So that's where those questions will be best answered, or maybe even going into one of our general chats today. But the next question I have here is for Dr. Byron Liu. What kinds of experiential learning opportunities exist for social science students?
That's great. We have a whole variety. I'm going to give you kind of a cross section today, and we have more and more coming each year. But here are some samples from specific to the social science programs, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is a representative list. So for example, anthropology runs several field schools during the summer. They run them in several places around the world. They've run them in Belize, they've run them in Crete, even in Antarctica. Anthropology and archaeology both also offer, well, archaeology offers labs where you may study rocks and bones that the archaeologists study. And some students end up being hired as research assistants in those labs to help. That's usually a few. So that's anthropology. Political studies has a variety of placements. They place candidates in with the local municipal governments, nonprofit agencies, for example, like the city of Kawartha Lakes, Children's Aid, the mayor's office are examples of the placements political studies have done. And they can link students to work with cultural agencies, either as a project course for credit or as an additional kind of an internship. IDS, International Development Studies, has their flagship program, their year in Ghana, which has been running for years. And it's a great program, students love it, where you actually spend an entire year in Ghana and you get academic credit for the things you study as courses. Indigenous Studies, many of their courses have embedded within them field work. So within a course, you will do lectures, and then you will go out and explore the aspects related to the course, very popular. Social work, which is a special program because they're sort of accredited, they require their students to do 700 hours of placements within their program, and they will place you. So if you're interested in social work, that's something you would want to explore with them. Business offers both placements and internships. Now we have formal definitions, so I'll just give you those very quickly. At Trent, a placement means a non-paid work period for academic credit. And in business, that typically means one day a week you work with a firm. Internships, in contrast, are paid work periods. You go off for a term, you work for a firm or an agency, could be nonprofit, and you get an academic credit as well. And obviously you get the experience on your CV. And more details on those, you would want to visit each program and find out the specifics because they can vary by program.
Perfect, thank you. The next question I have here is for Dr. Amy Spendick. How do lab classes or placements work for our students?
Well, placements and labs are different by different programs, right? And so you would have to look at each department to see what it is. But for instance, in our program, which is the policing program, students in their 4th year have the opportunity to apply and do placements at a variety of different community partners, which could include police services, social service organizations. And what students have to do is avail themselves to those opportunities. So we encourage our students to go out and find the placement locations they would like, to bring us a list of ones they think are their top 5 choices, let's say. And then we look through them to make sure that they are accredited, appropriate locations, that they're actually legitimate. And then we work with our students. Our students do approximately 400 hours of placement in the 4th year. That's spread out over the 2 terms. And the idea is to really give you those opportunities to get those marketable skills, to get you, at the top of the pool of consideration when you're applying for work. And our students are interested in a whole variety of them, different kind of placement options. And so, we do our best to help facilitate that, but ultimately, it really is up to the students to ensure that they know where they would like to be placed and follow the proper procedures for applications. And we do our best to help facilitate that. And usually the placement process starts at the second half of your 3rd year, when you start doing resume writing courses and writing your cover letters and taking courses on how to do interviews. All of that stuff is so important because you want to present yourself in the most positive light, because a lot of times placements are very competitive. And so we want our students to be the best prepared possible. We can't guarantee a space, but we certainly will work with students to try and help them get where they would like to go.
Perfect, thank you. The next question here I'll ask to Dr. Chris Byers. If students have questions about courses, how do they access their professors?
So the best way, at least I can speak for IDS, the way it works in international development studies, is they email them and try to either, it depends on if the question is easily answerable by email, we will respond. Particularly email me as the chair, you can ask me. But if you're interested in a particular course taught by a particular professor, you email that professor. And if it involves more discussion, if it's a more in-depth question, or if you just want to actually meet with the professor, then you can set up a meeting to either do a Zoom conversation or in person.
Wonderful, thank you. And I could add to that from being a student here in the math department. A lot of our faculty also have in-person office hours and have absolutely no problem and welcome you to just stop in during their office hours to chat with them in person as well. Now, I have a couple questions here for Heidi, our student on the panel. So Heidi, what do you love most about studying in the social sciences?
So like Amy said, social sciences are like understanding what people do and like why they do it. When I started as an IDS student, I just wanted to make the world better, and I didn't really realize the impact that it would have on myself. So I felt that the degree not only affected like my environment and my society, but it developed who I was. When I was in first year, a lot of people said IDS was challenging but rewarding, and I didn't really know what that meant, and I kind of feared it. But now that I'm in my final year, I'm really proud that I am a Trent student and I am an IDS student.
Awesome. And I'll just like clarify for those in the room, IDS is International Development Studies. We use a lot of acronyms here at Trent. I try my best to like display what those means, especially for our prospective students, as that might just be jargon that goes right over your head. But Heidi, another question for you. Why did you choose Trent?
So when I was looking at universities, I have to admit that it was a little like superficial, but I just loved how beautiful the campus is. Like if you look at our backgrounds, the campus is stunning. And I really, really liked that the school was small. So you get to know the faculty and they become your friends. Like even when I was in first year and I was scared of being a university student, my office hours were mostly me meeting with my TA, having coffee and discussing the material. So I really love the community that Trent has.
Wonderful, thank you. And thank you to our panelists for answering those preset questions there. Now what we'll do is hop into a live question and answer period. So if you have any general questions about studying at Trent in the social sciences, now's the time to type those questions in the chat box and I'll ask them to our panelists here. Again, we are trying to stay away from program-specific questions as we don't have faculty from all of our programs. And those questions will definitely be better answered at our open house coming up on November 20th. And I did see a few questions. So I'm just going to go through the chat from some things that came through earlier that I thought would be really relevant to ask here. Just give me a quick second to hop over to that. So what are the average class sizes within the social sciences? And I don't know, Heidi, maybe as a student, you might want to answer that, your experience with class sizes.
So yeah, it varies between years. Like obviously first year is probably going to be your biggest lecture size, but the seminars, that's the great thing about Trent, is they make sure that the classes are probably like 20-1, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And as you go up, like my class with Chris this year, I think there's 18 of us, and that's our lecture. So it's really fantastic that as you specialize in whatever you want to go, you kind of grow with your professors and like your education grows with it. So you really get to hone in and specialize.
Awesome, thank you. Another question here, and I'm happy for any faculty to hop in this. In the social science faculty classes, would you typically experience more lecture style classes or smaller groups of hands-on learning?
I could take that for a first stab. So we do a little bit of both. So I don't like to lecture in my 3-hour periods for 3 hours. I think students get awfully bored of listening to one voice. And so we do a chunk of lecturing, then our students will work in small groups and do an activity, and then we'll finish off lecture material. Usually at the lower level, so year 1 and 2, you're going to see more predominant lecture focused classes. And then in year 3 and 4, they become much more workshop and seminar basis. And primarily at the 4th level, you're going to find very few lecture based and mostly seminar based, which is great because students at the 4th year then sort of get to drive what they find interesting about the material and not just sit and consume material. And so we want to get students to the point where they can drive their learning a little bit more. And we do that incrementally over the years.
Perfect. And I don't know if Byron or Chris, if you'd like to add to that.
Sure. Maybe I'll just add quickly that the other thing, so yes, we have a similar pattern in international development studies where the lower year classes, first and second year, tend to be more lecture. But then there are the seminar groups, as Amy was saying. And then upper year tends to be more smaller seminar classes. But it also varies by professor. So some professors like to lecture more, others have a more sort of conversational approach. And it kind of depends on the subject matter as well. So, you know, there is some variation, but I'd say in general, Trent University is known for having more interaction in students than, particularly than in some of the bigger universities. And the other thing is, Professor Liu mentioned that IDS has this year abroad in Ghana. And so if you're doing the program in Ghana, these are small classes. It's a small cohort of students that goes through the whole year together. And so there's very much, you know, there's a variation there as well. There's not, there's some lecturing, but there's also some, mainly it's seminars.
Thank you. Now we've had lots of questions in the chat here of, I'm interested in both anthropology and archaeology, or I'm interested in psychology and sociology. Are students able to combine different disciplines here at Trent? I don't know. Yeah, go for it, Heidi.
Yeah, so I am an international development and political science student. And like Byron said, you can switch your majors. I switched mine like probably 3 times before I found what stuck, because there's just so much you can learn. So yeah, you can, I think one of our panelists said like you could even take like math and psychology. Like it's completely open to what you'd like.
Perfect.
Yeah, I can reiterate what Heidi said. We have something called a joint major, and at Trent, we try to make every single program joint with another. And that's unique because I know other universities may have some, but at Trent, pretty well all. There are a couple of exceptions, particularly for the professional programs like nursing, where it's just not feasible. But yeah, pick 2 disparate things, philosophy and business. Go for it.
Wonderful. And speaking of unique, I'll ask you a question, Dr. Byron Liu, just to add on to that. What makes Trent social science programs unique compared to other universities?
Well, like everything at Trent, we kind of add the kind of Trent special focus. So at Trent, we're kind of known for a focus on the environment, on sustainability, and that's certainly something that we don't do uniquely or alone. But you'll find within pretty well all programs, now I can't guarantee it, but with the programs with which I'm familiar, we often have kind of an underlying kind of interest in sustainability. So in business, for example, which doesn't sound to be an area where we would have sustainability, and in a particular course, for example, a finance course, which definitely doesn't usually lend itself. Our lecturer this year actually works at a firm and he's in charge of their sustainable investment branch. So we've embedded within a lot of our courses, and you'll find that certainly within the environmental studies group, but you'll find it elsewhere as well. So I think that's one aspect. The other, I think, and students tell me this, is that, and it's been said already, that many of your professors are very approachable and will have it and engage you in a conversation. I think that's an aspect of the culture at Trent. Now, it may be difficult in a first-year course that's large, but even then, I remember from first-year courses, I've met students who then proceed through the program, and I've kept conversations with them from time, and it works great for students. It works great for us instructors too.
Perfect, thank you. Now, I know we already chatted about one study abroad option within international development studies, but a student here wondering, what are the options for co-ops or semesters abroad for social science degrees, and what's the process to make that happen? Do we have a faculty who's happy to chat about that? And if not, I'm happy to answer that question as well. Okay, I'll hop in to answer that question.
I mean, I'll say just something quickly. Co-ops, the specific definition of a co-op where you repeatedly go to work for a firm is not common at Trent. We're trying to introduce them, but that if you expect that, it's difficult to find. Internships, where you work a term, for example, the business program offers those. There are other programs that I don't have a list with me. You would want to explore that with your program. And then placements, which are much more common across the social sciences, where you might do a day a week where you're working in a host institution and gaining experience and an academic credit. And I'll let somebody else add to that because that's my limit.
Yeah, Chris, I see you unmuted yourself.
So maybe I could first defer to Heidi because she had her hand up.
Yeah, so I was just gonna talk a little bit about the study abroad program, minus like what your degree specific are. We have like a careers unit at Trent, and they help us with a lot of services, but one thing that they do is they can match you with a different university that Trent has partnered with to study abroad. So there's a huge number. I couldn't name them all, but there's like Malta, there's Ghana, a couple in South America, a couple in the States. It just goes on, and they're really helpful.
Yeah, there's 35 countries, I believe, is what we have partnerships with in terms of universities. And if you're interested in that, connecting with our international office here on campus.
And then just finally to add, in part echoing Byron here, that the way Trent tends to do it is within the context of existing courses so that it doesn't add on time to your degree. Generally, when there's a co-op program, you sort of add an extra year or whatever it may be. And so, for example, in international development studies, we have a specialization in migration and refugee studies, which involves placements with organizations, courses that involve placements with organizations in Peterborough. And there's also field courses overseas. So in this way, you sort of get a lot of experience to, incorporate in your job record and so forth, but you don't lose time in the course of completing your degree.
Thanks for adding in on that. The next question here I'll direct towards Heidi. What kind of facilities are available on campus for students to study in?
Oh my goodness. I personally see the whole campus as a place to study. Like I study at the water. The building right behind you is our library. And the library just got renovated. It is stunning. And it has tons of room. Every building at Trent is so special that even like there's lectures and then there's tons of seating to study in whatever environment you like. We just added a couple of years ago our student center, and that is the best place to sit by the water and just study. There's tons of places. I don't think there's a building at Trent that is just for lectures.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And it does look like we have reached the end of our presentation. So I'd like to take a moment to thank the members of our panel for being here with us today and sharing their knowledge with us. This session has been recorded and it will be posted to our fall preview webpage next week. So if you want to review the session again, or if you want to review any of the other sessions, everything will be posted there. I'd also like to invite you to come and visit us at our campuses. We are hosting both in-person and virtual tours Monday through Saturday, and you could book one by going to trentu.ca/tours. At that sense, I'd also like to invite you to our fall open house, as I mentioned, happening on November 20th. At that point, we will have sessions from all of our academic departments, so we can get into a lot more detail with your program-specific questions. And we do look forward to connecting with you and answering any questions that you have. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy any other sessions you're hoping to hop into.